DNA is as unique as fingerprints, but much more difficult to hide. DNA contains all the details that make you human. No two people, other than identical twins, have the same DNA. DNA search is a new wave in police investigations. Criminals have always left behind microscopic evidence, but it was only with the advent of DNA testing that it became possible to detect it. At the Virginia Department of Forensic Sciences, Paul Ferrara runs one of the most advanced DNA testing laboratories in the country.
With the sensitivity of this technology, I don't know that I could go in and commit a violent crime and just not somehow leave something of me behind. And that's all it takes with this technology. Just some little piece of me that's got a cell with a nucleus in it, and I'm in deep trouble.
Identification of suspects. Here are 3 cases where DNA analysis helped catch the criminal quite quickly. First, Collin Pitchford. The first criminal case in which genetic testing was used was the murder of 2 girls in November 1983 and July 1986 in Leicestershire. The investigation initially led police to orderly Richard Bicklin, who confessed to one of these crimes. The laboratory compared Bicklin's DNA with biological material that was found on the victims and came to the conclusion that Bicklin was innocent. He was released. Leicestershire police then launched a massive search using DNA fingerprinting. 5,000 men voluntarily donated samples of their blood and saliva for 6 months, but this did not yield any results. However, soon a certain Ian Kelly came to the police and reported that he had received £200 from his acquaintance, Collin Pitchford, so that he would donate blood in his place. Pitchford was arrested on September 19, 1987, and after confessing to both murders, he was sentenced to life in prison. Second, attempt on Anna Lindh's life. Swedish Foreign Minister Anna Lindh was fatally stabbed in a shopping center in Stockholm on September 10, 2003. The main evidence found at the crime scene is the killer's blood left on the knife and the victim's clothing. DNA analysis of this blood established that it belonged to Serbian citizen Mihajlo Mihajlovic. The defendant admitted his guilt and stated that he heard voices ordering him to attack Lindh. Third, Keti Sepich. In 2003, the body of student Keti Sepich was found in New Mexico. She was strangled and then partially burned. DNA samples were found on her body that did not match any profile in the database. Keti's then boyfriend, Joe Bischoff, was brought in for questioning after detectives learned the pair had argued the night she disappeared. Bischoff was later acquitted. The case remained unsolved for more than 3 years until, in 2006, DNA from a criminal convicted in another case showed a partial match to DNA on Keti's body. Gabriel Avella, then 27, of Las Cruces, provided a DNA sample after he was sent to prison on burglary charges. Avila was found guilty of Kathy's murder and sentenced to life in prison. The case prompted the passage of Keti's law in New Mexico, which requires the collection of DNA samples from anyone arrested for serious crimes. DNA testing helps catch criminals even many years after they committed their crimes. Here are 3 such cases. First, Joyet Smith, a social darling. In March 1983, the life of 33-year-old Joyet Marie Smith, owner of the popular Buffalo Gals restaurant, tragically ended in California. She was found strangled, covered in bruises and wounds, in the San Lorenzo River. There was a lot of evidence at the crime scene, and detectives spent years interviewing dozens of people and pursuing multiple leads without finding any real suspects. In the local California community, Joyet Smith was an iconic figure. Her restaurant was a cozy meeting place for many friends, and her death left a deep mark on the community. Before her death, Joyet had a premonition of her death, giving away valuables and calling people she had not spoken to for a long time, as if foreseeing that her time was running out. Second, Rader, arrogant killer. Dennis Lynn Rader is an American serial killer who managed to escape justice for more than 30 years. His crimes horrified and shocked the people of Kansas for 17 years. He committed his first murders in 1974. His victims were the Otero family. Over time, he killed and tortured even more, choosing victims from different social classes and ages. Rader committed his last murder in 1991. and from 2004 to 2005 he wrote letters to police. In one of them, he confessed to the murder of a girl named Vicky Wegerle. By then, police already had Rader's DNA found on Wegerle's fingernails, but they couldn't match it to anything. The Rader remained unidentified. In one letter to the newspaper, Rader asked if the cops could track him using a floppy disk. The journalist responded negatively, and he sent a floppy disk with a letter to the police. On the floppy disk, police found metadata linking the offer to Christ Lutheran Church, where Rader was president of the church council. A DNA test using a swab of Rader's daughter's DNA showed similarities to the DNA found on Wegerle, and Rader was subsequently arrested. He confessed to 10 murders. He may have committed more crimes that are still unknown. He was sentenced to 10 life terms without the possibility of parole. Third, the Green River Killer. Gary Leon Ridgway is one of the most notorious serial killers in U.S. history. Ridgway was responsible for the deaths of at least 49 women, although he confessed to 71 murders. Most of his victims were young women, often sex workers or runaways, whom he picked up along Pacific Highway South. Ridgway strangled them and dumped their bodies in or near the Green River in the woods. He chose these women, he claimed, because he hated prostitutes and believed that he was punishing evil. In 1983, he was arrested for harassment. Ridgway picked up a prostitute and attacked her, but she was able to break free and reported to the police. That same year, cops began to suspect that Ridgway was the Green River Killer. In 1984, he successfully passed a polygraph test. On April 7, 1987, police took hair and saliva samples from Ridgway. He was still at large. It was only in 2001, after the advent of genetic testing, that DNA samples taken from crime scenes in the 1980s were compared with Ridgway's DNA samples. They matched, and Ridgway was arrested on November 30, 2001. He was sentenced to 49 life sentences. During the investigation, Ridgway confessed to the murders and cooperated with the police, showing the places where the bodies of his victims were hidden, in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. DNA testing is also used to identify a victim when other methods are ineffective, such as if the body is damaged. Here are 3 such cases. 1. September 11. Since the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, DNA testing has been one of the main methods of identifying victims. Most of the remains were badly damaged, so traditional identification methods did not work. 2. Tsunami. Following the devastating tsunami in 2004, which killed 250,000 people in 14 countries in the Indian Ocean region, DNA testing was used to identify victims whose bodies were damaged or decomposed. 3. Secret identities. Lori Erica Ruff was found dead in 2010. After her death, her husband Blake found a safe in the basement. Opening it, the man discovered strange things. Inside were documents that belonged to strangers, and he realized that she, his wife, was not who she said she was. Her real name is Kimberly McLean. Using DNA from Erica Ruff's child, police tracked down a Pennsylvania family whose daughter disappeared in 1986 when she was 17 years old. This was Kimberly McLean, who then became Erica Ruff. How well do you know those around you?